Fueling the growing army of ancient astronaut theorists were exciting new archaeological discoveries, like Gobekli Tepe, a series of stone monoliths found buried in the plains near Sanliurfa, Turkey in 1996. According to radiocarbon dating, the structures could be as much as 12,000 years old, more than 5,000 years older than the earliest known civilization in Mesopotamia.
Well, the site of Gobekli Tepe in southeast Turkey very rapidly became one of the most important archaeological sites in the world, because we'd never before known or imagined even that simple hunter-gatherers could produce such spectacular monumental structures as are found at Gobekli Tepe. These limestone pillars are up to 18 feet high. They're beautifully dressed and smoothed. We've never seen work like that from that period before. And the geomagnetic analyses that have been done of what's under the surface seem to indicate that there are at least 20 major circular structures in this mound. And so far they've dug up to half of them, but there's still an awful lot of work to go.
Eric had theorized that these ancient civilizations, many of them in contact or developed by extraterrestrials, were destroyed in a cataclysm like the biblical flood of the Bible. Gobekli Tepe was built over 12,000 years ago, and we have no records of it being built or who built it. So you have to ask yourself, were the people who built Gobekli Tepe destroyed in a great flood like was depicted in the Bible?
And the theory that I gravitate to the most is just that there was a pre-flood advanced civilization that was almost entirely eradicated at some point, and the idea of that being connected to the Younger Dryas, because there do seem to be a lot of these megalithic structures that were erected around the same time. Like you have Robert Schoch, who's dated the Sphinx, I think, to 12,000 years ago, and we have Gobekli Tepe, which turned everything on its head.
Peru, home of the world's longest mountain range, the Andes, the spine of South America. Here, in a high river valley, among peaks towering over 20,000 feet, the Inca established their capital city of Cuzco, which thrived for over 300 years, until Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 16th century. Above Cuzco, at an elevation of more than 12,000 feet, looms the ancient fortress of Sacsayhuaman, whose immense stone walls may hold secrets which predate the Inca themselves.
My feeling, very strong feeling, is that we're looking at a two-phase construction site in many of the so-called Inca stone monuments, and that the Inca structures sit on top of much more ancient rock-cut structures and megalithic structures that we just don't know who built them. And this actually fits with the Inca's own view.
Like many Inca sites, Sacsayhuaman features astonishing stonework, but not all of it credited to the Inca. According to conventional archaeology, the Quilque culture built the older sections of the site approximately 1,000 years ago. But the Inca themselves believed the site was constructed by an earlier unnamed race of people, led by a powerful god who descended from the skies.
Throughout time, there has been witness to a god named Viracocha that visited the South American people and blessed them and gave them all types of technology. And some of his physical characteristics make him stand out from the indigenous population because he was a very tall, pale-skinned, white-haired being.
But did this god Viracocha actually exist? Could he have been, as ancient astronaut theorists suggest, a visitor from an alien world? If so, it might help to explain just how the ancient site was constructed.
This rock weighs about 20 tons. This is minuscule compared to many of the rocks at Sacsayhuaman. Today we have heavy machinery to move such stones. But in the ancient times, especially the Inca, they would have used massive human workforces working for massive amounts of time. A rule of thumb is it takes about 10 to 20 men to move a 1-ton rock. So when you're talking hundreds of tons, you're talking thousands of men.
What we see is a culture who have got the technology to quarry giant blocks of stone, move them to the site where they want to build, and then to stack and cut and articulate these massive blocks into, in some cases, almost indestructible structure.
Talk about granite, you're talking about a composition of feldspar, mica, and quartz. So you need diamond to actually braid it or cut it. We would use diamond today to cut granite. Those are the kind of discoveries that lead one to question whether they were really using the tools in the ancient toolbox or whether there was something else at work.
The Pacific Ocean, January 1836. The British cutter Lambton arrives at the shores of the Micronesian island of Pohnpei. It is one of the first European expeditions to reach this remote landmass, which is located roughly 2,500 miles northeast of Australia. The ship's surgeon, identified only as Dr. Campbell, writes about a megalithic site that stands off Pohnpei's southeastern shore. He speculates that the massive structures are as old as the Egyptian pyramids and must have been the work of great men. It is one of the earliest accounts of what will later be known as Madol.
Madol is this amazing construction. It's a full-on city. When pilots during World War II would fly over that part of the Pacific, they would look out their windows and they would see what essentially was described as the Venice of the Pacific. So that became one of its nicknames.
Today, much of Madol is hidden beneath dense vegetation, making it appear as though the edge of Pohnpei extends further out into the ocean. But in reality, it is an 11-square-mile complex consisting of more than 100 man-made islets, standing atop a submerged coral reef. Archaeologists estimate that to construct the site, the builders used 250 million tons of basalt, a black rock that forms when basalt lava from a volcano cools and becomes solid. Some of the basalt logs and blocks weigh upwards of 50 tons.
Madol is this mysterious island in the middle of nowhere. You have at least 600 miles in every direction where there is absolutely nothing. And so to find this incredible megalithic structure there, you have to wonder why that place existed in the first place.
When we consider the sheer scale of the Madol construction site, it's mind-boggling. Why would they need this scale of construction on a tiny island in the middle of nowhere?
It is a complete mystery who exactly constructed it and when.
Historians have attributed the megalithic construction to the Sontalur dynasty. The empire ruled over Madol for approximately 500 years, from 1100 to 1628 AD. But speculation that they were the builders of Madol has been the subject of controversy, as many believe that an accurate dating of the structures is virtually impossible to determine.
It's difficult, really, to put dates on Madol. Currently, mainstream archaeologists are giving the city a date of about 1100 AD. And they're coming up with that date by dating some of the coral rubble that's there. What I think of there is that this is the date of the last repair work on this amazing city, and that the city itself was actually built much earlier than that.
The thing is, they left no records. They left no literature, no history, no art, nothing that says that they had these advanced technologies or concepts like mathematics that would enable them to build such an archaeological wonder. So it leaves this great mystery of who actually constructed Nan Madol and why.
Located more than 500 miles away from the crowded streets of Istanbul, Şanlıurfa in southeastern Turkey. There, in 1994, on a dusty hilltop, a local shepherd noticed the tip of a stone sticking out of his field. He began to dig, eventually unearthing a 19-foot pillar. Its edges were precise, and rising from its center was a relief carving of a strange animal. Upon closer examination, it appeared that the finely chiseled stone had been fashioned by talented stonemasons, working with advanced tools. When word of the discovery reached the scientific community, one fact became obvious. A Kurdish shepherd had stumbled upon what is perhaps the most astonishing archaeological discovery in modern times, a site known as Gobekli Tepe.
For 13 years, a German archaeology team has been meticulously going into a hill, and they have been doing carbon dating as deep as they go. It has taken them 13 years to uncover only 5% of a gigantic civilization. They know what's under the ground. Circles upon circles upon circles, perfect circles in stone. And rising up out of those stone circles are huge sculpted columns, 19 feet high, 15 tons per column.
Test results have supported the idea that Gobekli Tepe is nearly 12,000 years old, almost 7,000 years older than Mesopotamia's Fertile Crescent, long heralded as the cradle of civilization.
In Gobekli Tepe, the oldest advanced site now on our planet. We know of no other site that is this advanced. It has now doubled the history of humanity.
And right there is this gigantic site with huge megalithic circular structures. It just stands there, a mystery, asking us to go figure, how was this done? What's the background to this? We don't know who made them. They just come out of the darkness of the last ice age, where we know nothing, and enter the stage of history already fully formed. And to my mind, this is indicative of a major forgotten episode in human history.
Could the discovery of Gobekli Tepe radically change our understanding of human history? And might proof of an ancient civilization provide evidence that mankind's most puzzling myths might actually be based in fact?
A lot of myths, a lot of legends suggest that there were past civilizations of astounding sophistication at incredibly early periods. I think we have little glimmers, little suggestions around the world that there was something going on much higher, much more sophisticated, at a much earlier period of time.
To put things into perspective, Gobekli Tepe is 12,000 years old. That is several thousand years earlier in age than Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid. And indeed, according to biblical tradition, the world really began in 4000 BC, and yet that is 8,000 years later than the foundation of Gobekli Tepe. So clearly we have here something that contradicts our normal understanding of the evolution of civilization.
Curiously, after 13 years of digging, archaeologists investigating the ancient site have failed to recover a single stone-cutting tool, nor have they found any agricultural implements.
How in the world can you contemplate 19-foot tall, perfectly sculpted columns that are 11 to 12,000 years old and no tools